I want to call to order the Huntingburg Common Council meeting. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father God, I thank you for the commitment of the citizens that are present here and of our council and employees at the city of Huntingburg to here and help us make these important decisions that need to be made this evening. We ask that you continue to guide us through the process. For these things we ask in the Lord's name. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody have a chance to review the minutes? Any questions or corrections? Do I hear a motion?
And they look like they're acceptable, so I make a motion to accept the minutes.
We have a motion to accept
I'll second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Any questions for approval of claims? Should
I make a motion to approve the claims?
All right, we have a motion. Any seconds?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Our first order of business today, we have Whitney Loopers from, is it Loopers?
It is,
Good,
yeah,
okay.
it is
I'm gonna
Loopers.
check
You
that
said it right.
I've known Whitney for a while, but wasn't sure I ever pronounced her name wrong. She's with Visit Du Bois County. She is giving her report to us on tourism. And just to let you know, Indiana and local tourism, as we try to build our population, tourism is a big part of that, of our economic development. And just good news from the solar eclipse weekend, I received a letter from a group of people that were here from Hawaii. They are looking to purchase a home in Huntingburg, so
Oh,
that's great. They love the restaurants and the people along 4th Street, and that's a big part of their decisions.
That's wonderful, great.
Wow, nice.
You may be disappointed with the weather, but.
Well, I think they'll have a winter home.
Yeah, okay.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you having me here tonight. I just mainly want to give you an update on tourism, the things that we're working on, and kind of our economic impact report. So every year, we get an economic impact report. This is Rockport Analytics that does these figures for us. This is through the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, so we partner with them to receive that. So they give us a report card. So the 2022 numbers are our latest numbers that we have. And with that, we had a tremendous growth year. So with that tourism, we are ranked per capita number 14 out of 92. So a very strong ranking per capita. Tourism spend of $117 million. And county ranking of tourism spend is number 25, which we moved up a ranking there. We had a tourism spending growth of 16.4%, so a really, really great growth year between 2021 and 2022. I did include the pie chart, kind of letting you know where the distribution of spending occurs. So it's a little bit small, but shopping makes up 32%, food and beverage 29%, transportation 18%, entertainment 4%, and then that lodging, 17% of the distribution of spend. We are funded through innkeeper's tax, so the lodging element. We receive 5% innkeeper's tax, so anytime someone stays in the county for a short term, less than 30 days, we receive 5%, and that is how we are funded. So we do look at the total visitor economy. So with that, we do want people to have a really great time in our shops, in our eateries, in our entertainment. So we do focus on the whole picture, and then we want to have them stay longer and do that overnight. So the visitor economy is what we focus on. You can kind of see where we've been over the years. I have a little diagram of the increases throughout the years. So you can see between 2022 and 2014, we've had a 59.8% increase in our tourism spend. Except for 2020, we obviously had a reduction with the pandemic. That was a tough year for us. We had a 38% decrease in our revenue, and we had to kind of tighten the belt, per se, and figure out the best use of our dollars, and we really focused on leisure. We did some grant writing, received some grants, and some PPP support. So with that, those are kind of where we're at for our figures. It does help promote a healthy job market. You can kind of read those different details, relieves tax burden, and additional things. Now for our focus areas. We are a 3-person staff. So it's myself, Jessica Lindauer for Sales and Marketing Manager, and Heather Wire for Sales and Marketing Associate. We really work to accomplish a lot with our short staff. We do have a 7-person board as well and an advisory member. So with that, we work hard and try to make the biggest impact that we can, which takes a lot of collaborations. Having said that, this year was huge for us with being a part of the path to totality for the eclipse. We weren't sure where we were going to be. Everyone was throwing out numbers of, 5,000 to 200,000 people. It was very, very hard to align our expectations. With that, we did have a nice number, a manageable number. Logistic-wise, we were very fortunate that there was no safety concerns. So we are very pleased with the economic impact that it provided. It wasn't sold out, but it still was some really good traffic. And we had some first-time visitors. Our data shows that when a visitor comes to our area, they will, after the first visit, they will come 4 times in the next 2 years. They like whenever they come. They like what we have to offer. We're real well known with being somewhat rural, but we were able to capture some first-time visitors with the eclipse. Huge win, huge awareness. So we're very fortunate for something that's completely out of our control, being a part of that path of totality. So we do focus on visitor experience enhancements. In 2022, I should backtrack. In 2021, we had a huge decision on our hands. We could continue being at the Du Bois County Museum, which we very much loved our relationship with the museum, and kind of be under the radar, not getting a lot of visitors, be more of people stumble across us when going to the museum, and just focus our attention in promotion and not being a visitor center. So we could either do that, or we can take a big jump and try to be in the foot traffic area of the downtown and be a more visitor center. And the board all agreed that we need to really focus on being that complete visitor center and elongate stays through conversation. So with that, we took the initiative, found some different options, did a lot of pros and cons lists, and we are now in the downtown footpath in the Rojack area. So we're right near, does everyone know where we're at? We're right near where the old pet store used to be at. So Adventures, Recreation, and Gear. We have signage. That was a long time coming. So with that, we have some really great new signage. The place, since then, they came and they brought that huge children's area right next to us. And there's some really great future growth potential in that whole area that I'll be coming to here in a second. So I am really pleased with where we're at, and we're getting a huge increase of traffic. Still, probably roughly 200 or so visitors, but 0 to 200 is a big jump for us. So we're hoping to elongate that, we hope to increase that more, and that is our focus area, to bring more attention to us and to help have those conversations. Signage and art, we decided things were getting a little outdated. We had kiosks that were getting outdated. We had wayfinding signs that were getting outdated. So hard to keep up on all of these different initiatives that we started. So with that, we did do a new approach with the kiosk. They get changed out now every year. That follows the look of our visitor's guide. It is a vinyl panel, no more glass, different closures or anything like that. Just a complete vinyl panel. We were already doing the vinyl for the events, so we just made that a little bigger. Cost, not that much difference. So it was just a change of approach and having that annually designed with our visitor's guide. Wayfinding, if you've noticed, the old signs that you've seen throughout our community are down. We are in the stages. We actually have a conversation with NDOT scheduled for next week. We already have an agreement in store. We already have a plan, we have a design. That is a 2024 project to be completed. So you will be seeing those new wayfinding throughout our communities. We have 19 new signs. It was a hefty investment. I don't know if any of you guys know what signage costs, I'm sure you do, but it was time to make it. With that, we were very, we really thought carefully, and each element is easily interchangeable to have a long lifespan of just changing out certain areas and not starting from scratch. Sorry about that. We do our annual visitors guide and we distribute that. We do a print of 70,000 visitors guides. And our goal this year is to have less than 1,000 left. Hopefully we have 0 left, but we do not want any waste with recycling and such. So we really work hard to get all of those distributed. We do work with tourist information services as well to go to the different welcome centers and make sure that they are replenished. So we have a really nice, strong footprint there. We work with leads in IDDC. We have 7,000 leads so far this year that we've sent out visitors guides to. And then we also put it in different markets, and we had some direct requests as well. So it was really interesting seeing the return on investments of visitors guides. There's a lot of different studies, and it's definitely worth it to have that tangible piece. For our, across all of our promotions, we want a certain brand, we want a certain look, we want people to see us immediately and know we're Du Bois County, so we work really hard on our brand, our message, and our development there. So, continuous website improvements. 2022, we decided to do a website refresh. It was definitely time. Our numbers were dwindling, going the opposite direction that we would like, and everything gets outdated so quickly with websites. With that, we decided to invest in a digital audit with 26 Digital. It was a huge, a huge campaign for us to get our website to where we need to go. They gave us a 150-page recommendation sheet, very in-depth. We worked to this day to go through those pages and make those updates, and we have seen a huge increase of visitor traffic. We're at 40% increase, year over year. Tremendous. We're seeing a lot of really great traffic to our website, and some engagement, huge engagement numbers. So we did the website refresh, the digital audit, then we decided to work on our SEO. So we paid a huge SEO, make sure our search engine optimization was the next year. Each of these are big investments to get to the right place, and this year is paid search. So I feel like we really got the right formula in place to make sure we were ready for this stage, to really have big investments where we're at today. And it's working, we're seeing the numbers, so it is working. We work hard on our social media content. The most of the posts you'll see is by Heather Wire. She does a phenomenal job. She keeps it updated, she does daily posts. We're constantly pushing, we all work towards pushing other people's messages and helping with that. And then Jessica, she does a lot of the advertising and marketing, and we really are strategic in our geofencing and where our ads are being shown. We go to golf shows, we go to leisure shows, we go to boat shows, we go to motor coach marketplaces. So we have one-on-one conversations with group leaders trying to bring the group traffic to our area. Prior to COVID, we had some really strong numbers in the group traffic. We're around 20 or so. Hasn't been to that level yet. So we're really working to bring it back. Right now we're at 10. Last year we're at 6. New people, a lot of new people. A lot of people closed with the pandemic, so we're building new relationships. And I think we're going to be seeing some tremendous increases with our commitment to going to those different shows and meeting the people, because they have so many different options, and the biggest thing is to try to stand out and build a relationship with those individuals. We still do print and digital advertising, and we work on a lot of co-ops, helping to spread our dollars the best of our ability. We just finished a huge co-op with Indiana Destination Development Corporation for their spring campaign. Discover Southern Indiana, they split the cost of it with us. It was a $15,000 cost. They came in at $7,500, we came in at $7,500, and then IDDC also came in. And with that, people were telling me all around that they were hearing our ads. It was definitely worth it. I don't have the final numbers yet, it just finished, but I already know based on conversations I've had, and we were not even in the target audience, so knowing that that carried over to our area residents as well is kind of neat. Because a lot of people don't hear us because we target outside this area. It's really good to hear those things. We are working on a Spanish inclusion guide. So we're working on a Spanish version of our visitor's guide. We feel like it's not very inclusive to have just the one language. It's going to start with the digital, but then we are going to have a limited print on it as well, and try to make sure that people feel included whenever Spanish is their first language. We work hard on being present. We go to local organizations. We also go to the different meetings, whether it be Destination Huntingburg, Heart of Jasper, Downtown Merchants. We want to make sure that we are understanding what's happening in our community so we can promote it the best and see where we can fit in if there's any way that we can assist on any projects. So we know it takes a village. We're not going to do as much with 3 people as we are whenever we collaborate together. So with that, we also send our visitor's guide home to all the area students, and we work on cooperative planning. So we help with, we do grant writing. We try to find different grant opportunities for different projects and events, help where we can, whether it be a Visit Du Bois County initiative or a different tourism attraction initiative, we do try to help. We do initiate annual hotelier and lodging meetings, and we are a part of a lot of organization. Out of the 3 of us, we have a 4-H council member, a Destination Huntingburg advisory member, Destination International member, Downtown Merchants. We go to each of the Downtown Merchants. Jessica with our office does that. Discover Southern Indiana member, Du Bois County Chamber, Du Bois Strong Board member, Explore Southern Indiana. Heather just became vice president of that organization. Heart of Jasper advisory member, IDDC and Visit Indiana collaborative. Holiday World, we collaborate them with their influencers. We work well with their travel writers and make sure that they are elongating their stay and writing about Du Bois County while they visit Holiday World. Indiana Foodways Alliance member and board member. Indiana Tourism Association board secretary. Indiana State Festival Association collaborator. Jasper Chamber member. Play treasurer. Paducah Lake area year-round is that organization. Play is the acronym. RWB Music Festival member, chairperson. ROJAC board member, and CERMAC board member. We also are a resource for new events and new projects. We step on a lot of committees. And back in 2012, with us being small, we did not have a sports commission. And there was no easy way to have sporting events and insurance coverage for those events and get back with a philanthropic type of focus. And with that, DC Multisport was formed out of our office and with its own board. We now have multiple events throughout the year: the Heartland Half Marathon, the Parkland 6-hour endurance relay, the Color Fun Run, the pickleball tournament, the Strassenfest bike ride, and then we do multiple hikes, and I'm probably forgetting an event or 2, but we stay very involved with our DC Multisport as well. And all of our events have a charitable component, so all the proceeds go towards charity. 10% goes to our endowments for future charity. So we really want to give back in that element. Last year, we reached a huge milestone of giving over $200,000 in charity. Did I say 200,000? Yeah, that's what it is. So $200,000 towards charitable donations. This is just kind of fun to see. These are some different projects that we were either a part of or that just happened in our community that were very large. And you can kind of see there's just, every year, there's more. There's more that adds on and some that remain. And it's kind of neat to see how active our small community is with bringing new projects and new initiatives, new events, and making sure we have the right focus with our products. I did want to kind of mention our 2023/2024 plus future prospects. So obviously the Eclipse. We had the Senior LPGA Championship last year. We were heavily involved with that. Really great coverage. Sultan's Run increased they have increased their rankings in the nation. Had some really strong results in building awareness. Spectator-wise, it was minimal because it stormed the whole weekend, but it still had a really good earned media with it, and it was huge for our awareness campaign. Downtown Jasper Revitalization, Rojack had their 20th anniversary. DC Bombers, they added a lot with their Peaches Bar, and they're looking to do the Fly Boys, and just having some really cool enhanced experiences, which we really appreciate. Big League Baseball Classic, we're very excited about that. We just had actually, we're getting a lot of earned media with that. From actual television stations to we just had the Southern Indiana Business Report have a phone conversation with us, and there's a lot of people interested. So it's great to build awareness on our attraction that's League Stadium, and it's just so much room to grow there. I feel like we could focus so much attention, more attention on that stadium, and it will just be a huge win for us. It is the #1 baseball movie that grossed in history was filmed there. I mean, you just can't beat it. So I think there's some room to grow on that still. We're always trying to figure it out a little bit because Dryersville, they're getting hundreds of thousands of visitors, and we need to figure it out. We need to figure out why we're not getting that and what we need to do. So that is definitely a target for us. And I think this helps. All these different initiatives help with that. We did receive some placemaking and arts grants. We were focused on the art loop in a walkable loop that's right around our office, and then we want to make sure with that conversation that we talk about the overall art scene and the surrounding art, and include Huntingburg and Ferdinand and Holland with that as well. So make sure that it is a complete story. Door districts, those are brand new. That's going to be kind of exciting to see what all that brings. Already it's kind of fun to see people going out of the bar and walking the streets and just having a drink in their hand. It seems like everyone's doing it responsibly, and it just seems like it's getting some vitality, some walkability, more walkability. Ferdinand is looking to get a Main Street organization, so that would be huge for them. And then also Jasper's looking at their wellness center, so we have a lot of future prospects coming. On the back side of my sheet, you can kind of see our staff, which I kind of mentioned. And then here's our board members. So Rachel Steckler, I know you guys probably all know Rachel. She's our board president. Jim McFall is our vice president. Mary Clem is our treasurer. Kurt Vonderheit is our secretary. Shelby Gidley, she is our board member. Chris Shutter's a board member, and then new we have Kim Fisher adding as a board member as well. And then we have Hemang Shaw as our advisory member. So we have a really strong board. They give some great advice, direction. We just had a board meeting today. We meet monthly. Really good conversation. You can read our mission. And then also here. So I have a couple of QR codes. This is to receive the Visit Du Bois County newsletter. That is our leisure newsletter. So this is what visitors receive. And then this is our tourism initiative newsletter. That is for locals. So you can see the campaigns we worked on, what the results are, and future things that we are working on as well. If you have any questions, there's some contact. I used to have my little card on there, but if you can get a hold of me by that, or it's just W. Lubers, my first initial and last name, at visitduboiscounty.com. Do you guys have any questions?
Great presentation, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you sticking with me. Sometimes I can talk a little long, so I'm sorry.
I didn't want it to end.
Thank you.
No, so I was curious if you guys keep stats on, like, what are the top tourism attractions in the county? Like, where do most people go? And do you have,
Well, it's interesting you say that. So right now, we do not have the capability of seeing the number of each geofenced area. In 2025, that is a new initiative we will be adopting with Placer AI. So we will be paying, it's kind of a hefty cost, but we think it's time. And all the other DMOs that have invested in Placer AI, they say they can never go back. It gives you the numbers at your fingertips, and we would like to share that with anyone that would be interested in any type of event, geofenced area. We would want to be a community partner with that information. So keep that in mind. In 2025, we will have real numbers, and if you have any place that you want geofenced, just give us a call. So I will know that. We know our top pages that people go on our website, and we have our recommended top 12 things to do, but we don't have those real numbers at this time.
It's interesting. I did a presentation with Placer a couple months ago, and we looked at 4th Street restaurants, how many people came from Owensboro and Evansville to come here to eat. Baseball games, we had somebody from Miami, Florida was watching a lot of Bombers games last year at the stadium. We could find out. I figured that maybe they were retired and coming back here is probably what it was. But you could see those people within an hour that were coming from the Louisville area, Evansville, and Owensboro area, and of course, always Jasper.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting
It's
what
good,
they
useful
give you.
information. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're scheduled a fall demo to, we received a demo last year during the senior LPGA, so it was nice because they gave us real numbers to put with our grant reporting. So we scheduled that demo strategically a little bit, and then it just allowed us to see what it could bring to our tourism destination, to understand not only what occurred, but where we need to market to.
You have to split up into 5 distribution of spending here. Can you dig into transportation? I mean, is that gas or train tickets, or what does that equate to?
I believe mostly gas and fuel. That's what they
Fuel.
kind of alluded to, but they do kind of lump it together and they say transportation as a whole. So I don't have the detailed.
I was just curious because it's a pretty good sum, and that was my assumption, but I didn't know if that was.
I don't know if it's rental vehicles, fuel, those different things. We do have Enterprise and Ular, they do rental businesses. So I'm sure that's part of it, but I'm not sure of the breakdown. I just know that transportation is that number.
Okay.
regarding lodging, do you see opportunities there? Like, do we need more lodging in Du Bois County to?
Well, we actually are seeing a lot of the Airbnbs uprising and people kind of doing a different type of stay. I do think there's room for both hotelier and the vacation rental type of lodging. We are in a little bit of a unique situation in that we do have rooms. We do have room nights, and we're trying to understand how to get back to the increase that we had previously. So we're seeing a slight decrease in room nights, increase in revenue, decrease in room nights. So that's something that we are battling and trying to understand how we can shift that to be increase in revenue and increase in room nights. So that's something that we do focus on and make sure we track. Any other questions?
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, next part of the meeting is to call to order the public hearing on the proposed sewage rates. To begin that, we're looking for a presentation, first from Eric Parsley. Eric was here last meeting to present some ideas, but he's also going to let us know really talking a little bit more about project needs, has some slides for you, and then Buzz will come up with the most updated financial numbers that, hot off the press, so to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Yeah, I'll just give a brief overview of the project. It's kind of what's really kind of generated the need, I guess, the primary need for relooking at the rates and whatnot. Most of you, I know, have already kind of heard this before, but it's always good to get a little bit of a refresh. So Huntingburg operates its own wastewater treatment plant, obviously. And we undertook a study a few years ago of that facility, and that study looked at the needs of the entire wastewater utility. We evaluated various alternatives, and then we developed a recommended solution based on cost and what best fit the needs that we identified with the city. So as a result of that, then we partook upon design of the project and have bid that out since then. And so now we're at the point of preparing the final financing in order to award the project. So the background here, just to discuss the need a little bit, the facilities date back to 1957. So we have just some aged facilities out at the wastewater treatment plant. We also identified capacity needs in looking at kind of a 30-day rolling average of the data. We identified that there was both a flow capacity need. We were above the average design capacity by about 27%, so we were at 127%. On peak flow days, we were 4 times the capacity of what the plant's rated for. But we also noticed that some of the pollutants that we treat out at the plant were also pushing or above the capacity for those. So the fact that the plant's maintained compliance and has met with all of its permitting effluent limitations over the years, but it's been a challenge, and they've been very stewardly to get that accomplished. This graph just kind of further shows the capacities of the plant and how we're above average on our flows, looking at the green line versus the red line, which was actual observed data. One of the things about the plant that has become problematic is back in 1992, the city entered into an interlocutory agreement with IDEM with respect to excessive flows at the wastewater treatment plant. What happens is whenever it rains, we get extremely high peak flows. Coming out of that, what the city has done is really done a good job of maintaining and trying to control the amount of flow that gets in during wet weather. But as we've seen, not only with Huntingburg, but other communities, it's almost impossible to stop it from getting in, and we're left with having to just treat this excessive flow. The way Huntingburg does it, the way your treatment plant does it is a little bit unique to the city. As you can see on this graph, I've got some green circles where there's the primary process train where wastewater is treated under normal circumstances and follows kind of this yellow line. When it rains, the more reddish orange lagoons are put into service, and the excessive water that can't be treated through the normal process is held in those lagoons. If it continues to flow above the capacity of storage volume that we have there, then it is discharged, it is disinfected, and blended in with the fully treated wastewater. That has been something that the city has successfully been able to operate for years, but IDEM has really been looking for a more permanent solution to provide full treatment. And that's really what the new project does. So the new project essentially will triple the capacity of the facility. We'll go from an average design flow of about a little over 1 million to over 3 million gallons per day. We'll dramatically increase our peak flow capacity through the plant. We've designed what's called an SBR system, It's a batch treatment system, but it allows for some really large swings between our average flow capacity and then being able to ramp up our treatment efforts whenever we do see those high flows come through the plant. We did have some factors that increased costs from what our original proposal or original plan had estimated. All were well justified, but they did impact kind of the rates and what we're looking at having to do in order to accomplish this. One of the issues was poor soils that we have to deal with at the plant site. Another one was a pretty dramatic increase in the pollutant loadings that we had to address. When we did bid the project on the wastewater treatment plant division, at least, we had about 10 contractors that were interested, or that we reached out and discussed the project with. We only had one bidder, but that was really kind of indicative of the market that we're seeing in projects of this size and nature across the state. We did obtain some costing information from some of the non-bidders. We compared that against cost numbers that we had from other projects and determined that the single bid that you received was reasonable and customary for what we're seeing right now. One of the other things that affected the cost was simply a high construction cost index increases since 2019, which when it was originally laid out and estimated, just kind of across the board on construction costs. Just in the years from 19 to 22, really, we saw about a 30% increase in cost. So we do graph costs of projects versus the capacity to get a kind of a gauge of where we think things are. When we did that and updated that for 2024 numbers, the green circle on this graph represents where your project landed. And as you can see, it was right in line with where other projects are when adjusted for current costs within the state of Indiana. So with that, like I said, we have now received bids on both aspects of the project and are currently working through the final work with the financing agencies and look to hopefully start construction later this summer. So if there's no more questions about the project, I'll turn it over to Buzz and let him go through the numbers a bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Mayor, Council, good evening. For the record, I'm Buzz Crone with O.W. Crone and Associates, municipal advisors for this project. The final project costs after getting revised, or the rebid on Division B and the bid on Division A, the construction costs came in a little between $37 and $38 million. We have a 10% construction contingency budget because we want to put in, is it belt presses at the centrifuge? Centrifuge for sludge dewatering. That's the intent. Then decommissioning the old plant and all the soft costs related to the project came out to about $46.1 million. Putting all that together, that's all-in costs, came out to about $13.75 per gallon per day. The actual construction component of that's about $10.50, I believe, per gallon per day, somewhere in that ballpark. The good news is we've got extremely favorable financing through the USDA Rural Development Program. More than half of our funding will come at a rate of 1.125% over 40 years, and the other 45 or 47% of the project will be at 2.125% for 40 years. So we've got extremely low interest rates on our project, and we also are rolling in all of our existing outstanding bonds, the electric loan. There is one bond we're paying off with funds on hand, the 2015 refunding bond or revenue bonds. We're paying that one off, I believe. Are we targeted for March or May 24th on those? Yeah. The current closing schedule is May 29th with the Indiana Bond Bank. We're going through their bond anticipation note program. Years ago, the USDA and SRF really had sort of the same issues where they would close on a project before it was fully constructed, and then they'd run into issues with change orders or bids coming in high, and then they'd have to do supplemental loans. So now they've sort of tightened that up, and they've used the bond bank to do interim financing, which we had a band number 1 is what we call the first one that's still outstanding today. That will be refunded with band number 2. Band number 2 will also cover refinancing all the outstanding debt and funding all of the construction. It's a 2-year projected construction period. I believe we're putting the payment date for band 2 at July 1st, but it's likely we'll pay that off 2 or 3 months before July 1st. But those are some of the recent dates that we've worked out with the Indiana Bond Bank staff. So our plan, and we do have significant grant funding from the EDA. We've got almost $3.2 million, $3,184,000 and some change, and $5 million from the SWIFT grant through, I believe that's through Indiana Finance Authority. So while our total funding, when you count in all of the refinancing of the old debt, is close to $49 million, our proposed new debt will come in at $40.7 million. And again, more than half of that's at 1.125%, the other 48% or so is at 2.125%. So I know the numbers are staggering, but the interest rate is incredibly low. I think we've been through this, the revenue requirements and the rate-making formula for municipal sewage works comes from Indiana code, and I don't believe we're not making pilot payments or earning a return on the wastewater utility. We are just basically funding the bare minimum revenue requirements, cash operating expenses, debt service. We'll use our net operating revenues after paying off the cash operating expenses to and the debt service to fund our debt service reserve requirement. We'll have to fund up a 1-year debt reserve requirement, and we'll have some time to work that out with Tom during the construction period, because we probably want to use some of the existing funds that we'll get back from the bond bank to maybe pre-fund some of those debt reserve funds. But we'll have, plenty, we've got 2 years before the final closing with rural development. We'll set those funds aside and to try to make the annual contribution to the debt reserve as painless as possible. But over 5 years, we'll want to fund up about $1.4 million in the debt reserve fund, which is customary for any bond issue. And again, the net operating revenue will also cover our allowance for replacements and improvements. Once we fund up the debt reserve requirement, we'll have about $400,000 a year to put towards routine replacements, improvements, addressing I&I issues, slip lining old mains, etc. So here is the proposed rate schedule. Our current rates are on the left side. We're proposing, presumably if approved tonight, that a 17.5% increase be implemented in June, which would mean we'd have about 6 months of collections for 2024. And then in January 25, we would put the final 10% increase in, and that will get us to a comfortable debt coverage ratio, which is also a key requirement that we have to meet for either the bond bank or the USDA Rural Development Program.
That's at 1.3, is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to be at about 1.28. 125% is what state revolving fund requires. I believe RD only requires 120% debt coverage ratio. And by debt coverage ratio, that's taking our net operating revenues and dividing it by the debt service requirement annually. So we'll have about a 28% cushion at the end of construction. That's assuming based on our projections right now. And we have included, and this was one of the things that sort of came up when we had our last meeting. We didn't have that 4,000 gallon rate comparison fully updated because we added an additional employee and additional chemical costs for the new plant. Just as to be conservative, we're hoping that power costs go down with new pumps and motors, and are they variable frequency pumps, so they'll be much more efficient on power. But on the other side of things, all the green projects that are being pushed down the electric industry are driving power costs up too. So hopefully we'll come out ahead, but we don't want to we don't have those exact figures right now, so we want to make sure that we cover all those bases. But again, this year we'll only have the Band 2 outstanding for about 7 months of 2024, and they will invest those funds so that we'll only pay the net interest, but the gross interest on the band is actually higher than what the total bond and interest payments are once we close at the USDA rates, which is kind of interesting. But it's still going to be in that $1.4 million ballpark. But again, we don't expect. We put the gross number in for the debt service for 2024, but I would imagine if we earn 5% on that money and we're only paying 4%, we'll be spending that down, but we're going to spend the grant money first. So hopefully we'll have some net cash flow in 2024 that we can put towards some of those debt reserve requirements we're going to have after we close with rural development.
It is a requirement that we spend the grant money before
we have to spend the grant money by the end of the year, so that's sort of the other impetus in trying to get this moving forward and closing as soon as we can, so we can give notice to proceed and make sure that we take advantage of all the over $8 million of grant funding. The impact on homeowners right now for 500 gallons a month customer, which there are some out there that have single elderly widow fixed income type people are going to be maybe in this 500 to 2,000 gallon range. They're still going to be looking at roughly $10 to $12 a month increases when we get to the final phase. That'll be phased in two phases. The 4,000 gallon rate is what all the lending institutions use for evaluating whether we're eligible for grants or not. At $65, we were sort of on the low end of that range. At $84, we're going to be well into that range. So if there's good with the bad, and that did help us in securing these grants by having rates that showed a need. But we're not alone. There are a number of other communities that are facing these same issues. This was the slide that we didn't have updated last time, and we were using the one before we put the increase in the one additional operating person and the chemicals in. But we do have that in sync now. So right now we're at $65 a month. Phase one will go up to, this is for 4,000 gallon customer, not for all customers, but it'll go up to about $77 a month and then up to the $84.50 a month at phase two. But we're not alone, and there are other utilities that are like regional sewer districts, conservancy districts that are well over $100 a month. So I mean, and I think the other thing to keep in mind, we're making a significant stair step. As Eric alluded to, some of the plant in service right now was built in the 1950s and then upgraded in the 1970s. That's 50 years ago, and we've been kind of band-aiding things along and got by fine until IDEM said, no, you can't do that mixing anymore, you've got to treat everything. And there are a number of communities that are facing these kind of stair steps now with their new NPDES permits. But hopefully, the biggest part of our revenue requirements is locked in for 40 years once we close with USDA. So any new customer growth, it won't be impacted by inflation. Obviously, operating costs and things like that will be, but about half of our revenue requirements are fixed for 40 years. So, we'll have a long time before we have to make a big stair step like we're doing right now. With that, I'll see if there's questions. I don't see too many folks from the public here other than the city folks. I guess that's a good sign. But this is a public hearing, and if anybody has questions for Eric or I, I'd be glad to entertain those.
Well, you just stated that you said you think we'll be financially good and we wouldn't have to do a large rate increase for some time. What's your best guess on that?
Well,
I mean, financially, you're saying the majority of our problem is the debt service,
yeah,
and
we have about 1.6 million in operating costs, and that includes an additional 130,000 for a new employee and additional chemicals. So we anticipate that, we're going to be fine well past 2026 without any, even having an inflationary increase. I can't predict what inflation's going to do down the road, but I do know that right now, the $1.4 million, that's a locked-in number for 40 years. So if we had 3% inflation going forward, we still have probably at least 3 or 4 years past 2026 before we dip below that 120% coverage ratio. And again, if we get growth of any sort, whether it's industry or residential growth, commercial growth, that will bolster the top line, the revenues coming in. Unfortunately, we can't project that when we get ready to issue these bonds. We have to go forward with who's here right now, and this is where we are. But I believe we'll be able to fund most of that debt reserve between now and when we do the final closing with rural development, which means, we'll have this $400,000 cushion for other projects that might come up for slip lining areas that may need to be, we've got problem I&I, but we've got plenty of capacity to treat the I&I we're getting now with these new capacity figures that are being built into the new treatment plant.
So is that an annual number?
These are annual numbers, yes.
That's 400, you'll have 400 annually for improvements, repairs.
That's the, we've sort of kept this at a minimum revenue requirements that we must cover for
I got
to
you.
comply with the Indiana Code. So cash operating expenses, debt service, and then the amount remaining is going to be sufficient to provide more than the minimum coverage we need for the outstanding bonds. And again, our hope is that we see increases here from customer base growth and hopefully low inflation here in the operating costs. So,
Is it possible our operating costs will reduce?
our hope is that, power costs will go down. I know sludge handling, when we get this, if the centrifuge comes in, that will potentially reduce our sludge handling costs considerably, because that'll speed up that process and get it ready to move out much quicker. But we didn't speculate that in these numbers, but yeah, our hope is that actual costs come in less than what we have in our projections, but
Yeah, and I think hope is the word, but
Yeah.
I think that is probably there. But also this is based upon zero growth in the city from the revenue standpoint. And we all hope here that we don't have zero growth over the next few years. I think.
I would agree, but since the public isn't here to ask these questions, I
No.
want it on the record.
these are good
That
questions.
this is what's being considered, and we're considering no growth. We're considering we have this money for improvements and repairs. So
Yes.
we could possibly be frugal and carry that significantly beyond 3, 4, 5 years from now, if we do it right and we get some luck with inflation and things like that. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm trying to get out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those are excellent questions.
A few years ago, this might be a question for Brad, I'm not sure, but a few years ago, shortly after I got on the council, there was a project where we had to expand sewer lines in order to be able to accept more growth in the city. Are there any other projects like that, or do we assess our infrastructure and say, okay, 10 years from now, we're gonna need to replace those lines? Or, is there any surprises that can be not surprises that you have on the radar, other big expenses that you're figuring on happening somewhere down the road?
Nothing offhand, but we're constantly always, we got flow meters out in the system, we're constantly moving from section to town, monitoring pumps at a lift station, monitoring everything where we can get I&I out of the system. So, street projects, Clay Street, we're up there right now, they're getting ready to community crossing do that, so we went up there and we cambered everything, what needed to replace, so we did that in-house. Just stuff like that always comes up, and that's where that $400,000 will be spent. But 19th Street lift station, that's been a problem. We're spending money out there right now, but it's hard to say with wastewater. There's always a mystery out there.
You know what happens.
Well, yeah, probably the simplistic answer to that is, so if you have significant growth in an area, like on that part of town, that put additional pressure on the 19th Street lift station, which is good and bad all. And yes, we got more customers, but we got more flow and we got to pay for it.
Does that feed in that East Side Interceptor project at 19th Street? Because I remember that project wasn't too many years ago, about $3 million or something like that.
No.
But yeah, the lift station, I don't know what.
And I'm not trying to answer it for you, but In a nutshell, that's how I see it. I mean, if you got growth, you got growth, you got
More income.
you got more to treat, you got more to pump, more to whatever.
I mean, Southridge, the high school out there, middle school is doing a big transform and adding on. And Eric and I have been doing some studies where they're gonna transfer the flow, we're gonna pump it now. So the capacity's there and all that stuff. It looks like we're gonna be fine, but if there's extra growth out there, we may have to upgrade some pumps and stuff like that too, so.
You know, to add to that, one of the things we look at in, they do a good job of monitoring just pump run times on a daily basis and keeping track of that. And we can look at that at monthly increments and see number of starts, number of hours it runs per day. We can see some trending in when it rains, how much more of that increases. That's not showing us any bottlenecks right now, which is good. But, you know, like what happened with 19th Street, it was growth driven, you know, and we see that. Those are good problems to have. But I think what
250
we
more
want to avoid is
customers
that,
would be a
oh,
good
we
problem.
didn't expect this type of thing. So.
Do you see those in real time, or do you have to go to the pump station to see that?
It's in real time. So we have a print off every morning. The guys go around, check lift stations every morning. We got flow meters on our main lift stations. We got hour run times on every lift station except for a handful of them that are really small. And then we go out and do pump downs and everything else like that, so.
How much of the increase from where we were before to now is because of design changes, and how much is due to construction cost increase?
I'd say probably about half and half, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
So like 10 million for each?
Yeah, because we,
Most of it, you know, a lot of it was really just inflationary. We're seeing construction costs. I would say, you know, kind of scope changes maybe make up another 20% or so of that increase.
I think a lot of people are kind of upset that we're dragged through this, and I think it's a little bit easier to swallow if you know that it was design changes, more so than just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think those numbers are helpful to have.
I think, from my experience, I'm not the engineer, but when you get into design, it's a lot more specific than preliminary engineering and.
Yes.
Well, when things go to bid, though, you expect it to be pretty far in the process. And I understand if there were changes that needed to be made for the soil or something. And I think that knowing what percentage of that is this change is helpful, that those design changes would have had to be made then or now, that it's not.
Exactly, and you know, we talked extensively about the pollutant loading increase that we observed, and I think that was like a 60% increase in the tank sizes to address that, which is separate from just the volume of flow coming in, but it's the capacity that we need to have to be able to treat those pollutants. And had that not been discovered and we built the plant, you know, we would have been starting with something that was really being pushed right out of the gate. So it's fortunate it was found when it was, but that drove a lot of the cost too. So you know, we went from tanks that were 23, 22 feet tall to over 30 feet tall, you know, things like that. So.
One time this plant had the solar system included, is that still in?
Yes, yeah. It
So that
wasn't
would help
bid
our
with what's
operating
been,
costs.
yeah, it wasn't bid with what's been bid to date, so we kind of held that with some of those contingency funds and whatnot, just to make sure we get the core things done that we need.
Right.
And add that in.
But that would help with our operating costs in
Sure.
the future,
Yep.
cut our electric back.
Yep.
Yep.
And I know there's mention of the additional employee, but just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we
Doesn't
need it,
happen,
and we
right.
will hire that person.
Right.
I think we're running one or two under right now, anyway, and that's kind of been operating under the budget and making it happen. So
Right.
that's the goal, I think, for all the way around.
Right.
We gotta think hard and fast before we add that person.
It's good to be lean, it's not good to be ragged.
Yeah.
You know.
Buzz, it's probably too late for this conversation and this project, but is there means, or is it allowable for a utility to figure into a rate increase a portion for like future capital improvement projects. It just gets set back in an account that grows, so that 30 years from now, we don't have to borrow all the money again to replace them, to replace a processing plant that, you know, maybe would have $10 million set back for those kind of things. Is there even a means for being able to save for the future?
Absolutely. This is what we've got right now to work with, but we will have some cash on hand because we'll get some funding, we'll get some funds back from SRF. We have a debt service reserve fund at SRF that will, I believe it's about $580,000 that is in that fund. And we're spending $440,000 paying off the 2015 bonds with funds on hand, but because we've been phasing the rates in over the last several years, we're in decent shape cash-wise right now that you know, we could perhaps set aside some of those funds to be in sort of a CUME, like making akin to like the CUME Capital Development Fund that you have on your property tax roll, but and maybe look at that every year to see what net revenues we might have that we want to put into that fund. But in terms of what anything more to factor into the rates right now would put upward pressure on having to do more with the people that are here right now. But 250 or 300 more customers would be a good problem to have. And then that's where those kinds of things can get funded, perhaps with growth that's going to come in the next 5 to 10 years. But that $1.4 million debt service number is locked in for 40 years, so that's only about half of our revenue requirements are going to really be subject to inflation. And like I say, hopefully those numbers keep coming down. Excellent questions, really, from everybody. Anything else?
Any other
Well,
questions?
motion to close the public hearing?
We have a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we ask for comments from the public? Yes, you might, yeah, for the record, ask if there's anyone that wants to make public comment or question.
We have anybody that wants to make public comments or questions?
Don't always speak up at once.
And Tom, you also included in the minutes the fact that you did publish notice of this hearing, time and place and date of this hearing, and also mailed actual notice to those customers living outside the city limits.
I'll let you look at it.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a first and a second, no public comments. We have the vote. All those in favor saying aye, closing public hearing.
Aye.
All those, any opposed? Motion carries. Now we have to consider adoption of the sewage rate ordinance number 2024-07.
Who's second?
That ordinance was introduced at your last or at the meeting of the, was it April 23rd meeting? No, it's not right. Yeah, April 23rd meeting. Ordinance number 2407. Ordinance amending ordinance number 2022, establishing a new schedule of rates and charges and services rendered by the municipal sewage works of the city of Huntingburg and matters connected therewith. Just a motion to pass the ordinance is all that's necessary? 'Cause it was
Motion to
introduced.
adopt.
You-
Motion to adopt.
Or adopt, yeah.
I'll second it.
We got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Pulte,
Aye.
McFerrin,
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
Ware is absent. 4 ayes, 1 absent.
And we do need signatures.
No, just the, yours and clerk treasurer's.
Okay. Next order of business, I know Clerk Treasurer Tom Dipple has the
proposed transit grant resolution, which you're approving is for myself as mayor to act on the behalf of the city in authorizing the application for that, and also to be able to accept, if awarded, those funds from the transit. This is just an extension of the existing transit system monies that we get from NDOT.
Yeah, it's the annual, it's actually what you asked about last week. Do we need something? And yes, we did need something. So that this would be ordinance or resolution. Resolution number 2024-10, and it's for the operating 5311 grant. And I think for that capital grant, it's 5339.
Not sure what you call it, but basically it's a renewal of the existing
Right.
grant that we've been operating under from the Indiana Department of
So
Transportation.
what was that resolution number?
2410.
So I
Need a motion to accept resolution 2024-10.
get it. So we need a motion to accept the 2024-10.
Make it motion.
Make that motion. We have a second.
1 second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have any other items that need to be discussed? Any citizens items or council items? Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. I have 6:41.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.